What's going on there, everyone? Well, last night I had the first round of Democratic debates. I fell asleep. It was just not that interesting to me, and I fell asleep. What can you do? They didn't say or talk about anything that was really arousing to the mind. So yeah, it was pretty pathetic. But we'll get into that because we're gonna tonight. I am gonna watch the higher ranking Democrats do their debate. But this is a good article from the Daily Caller. Sanders says 2016 election was rigged. Claims he would have beaten Trump. Now, I'm not sure if he would have beaten Trump, but I will say I agree with him when he says the election was rigged. Not only was it rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton to beat out Sanders for the Democratic nomination, it was rigged for Hillary would beat Trump in the national election. But they didn't quite get what they wanted still, even after all the rigging they did through the deep state and more. But let's get into this story. The system was rigged against Democratic presidential candidate Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders in his loss to Hillary Clinton in 2016 election, Sanders claimed Wednesday on MSNBC. Sanders spoke to Casey Hunt on MSNBC Wednesday and said that he would have beaten President Donald Trump. I doubt it. Had the election against Clinton not been rigged against him. Sanders bowed out of the 2016 election less than 2 weeks before the Democratic National Convention and endorsed Clinton for presidency in her race against Trump. Well, see, that right there it was a stupid thing for him to do. He should first off he should have never have bowed out because he had a fairly decent chance. But then he endorsed her, which was complete capitulation and in the eyes of me and many, it just made him look that much weaker. He's a pushover. Simply put, he's a pushover. No, some people say that if maybe that system was not rigged against me, I would have won the nomination and defeated Donald Trump, Sanders said after Hunt asked him his thoughts on whether or not he hurt Clinton's candidacy. That's what some people say. It was rigged against him. I mean, it was clearly rigged against him. There's just a multitude of different evidence pointing towards they wanted Clinton. She's a classic deep state type politician. She was a warmonger. She said some of the most heinous things I've ever heard come out of a human's mouth. Like when Gaddafi was pretty much just marched through the town with people stabbing him and beating him and all this, and her infamous remarks: "We came, we saw, he died." That's something you shouldn't say, even about your enemies. Come on. It's the death of a human being that shouldn't be celebrated. Even if it is a horrible person, you shouldn't celebrate it as such a positive, happy thing, because it's still the death of a human being. Come on. Some people, such as Donna Brazil, have alleged that Clinton had been able to accomplish a secret takeover of the Democratic National Committee at the very beginning of the primary race, ending Sanders' chance of winning. Sanders seemed to concur with this idea and was adamant that he would have been the one to defeat Trump, which it's all speculation now, but maybe. Bernie Sanders had a huge following in 2016. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad neither one of the Democratic candidates won, because they would have fundamentally changed the way America runs. We would have either became a communist light country, socialist, or the swamp would have been so bad. So can you imagine if Hillary would have won? How awful. And no more Clintons. We're done with that. Sanders went on to say that he is a Democrat. Sure he is. Although he has been outspoken about being for socialism throughout his campaign. Yeah, because he's a socialist. You can't be a Democrat and a socialist. You're one or the other. Pick one. Of course I am a Democrat, Sanders said. This is a Democratic National Convention, a Democratic primary here. That's because most Americans, I'd have to say a fat portion of Americans, would not want to go for socialism. Any well-read or even mildly educated person would not want socialism. Socialism has failed around the world every time it's been tried. There are no socialist countries that are worth a damn. Look at Venezuela, modern. Of course, I'm always going to say look to Venezuela because they are a true form of socialism. Because he loved during 2016 to point to the Nordic countries and everything and say, look at them. No, and they even those countries even came out and said, hey, stop calling us socialist. We have social programs, yes. Most places in the civilized world have social programs, but they're not socialist. Bernie Sanders doesn't seem to understand or grasp that concept. That yes, you can have America, we have social programs, we have social welfare programs, this, that, and the other. But we're not even close to being a socialist country. An actual socialist country never works. This is a change from the tune from his past, where Sanders has proudly admitted that he considers himself to be a socialist. When I ran for the Senate for the first time, I ran against the wealthiest guy in the state of Vermont, Sanders said in an interview with The Nation in 2015. He spent a lot on advertising, very ugly stuff. He kept attacking me as a liberal. He didn't use the word socialist at all because everyone in that state know that I am that. And who cares if these people spend a lot of money? You know what spending a lot of money does? It boosts the economy. I don't expect any socialists to understand how economies work because they obviously don't. They really don't. Look at AOC. She likes to consider herself borderline socialist. And she thought a tax break was actual cash. Yeah, she thought it was cash you could put in your hand. That's not how tax breaks work, AOC. I'm sure by now she's realized that, but I doubt it, because she doesn't seem to realize much of anything. I intend to be the Democratic nominee, Sanders told Hunt Wednesday. Now, I'm not sure about all that. I don't think people on the left want an old white man. Sure, there are a lot of people on the left that are like, we should probably vote for Biden because he might have the most viable chance of winning. But they don't want to, and Biden would be a horrible choice. He's an old, low-energy man who doesn't seem to have his head screwed on quite as tight as it used to. And, I don't know if he ever used to be honest with you. He's been a human gaffe machine for as long as I can remember hearing the name Joe Biden. You look at his past. A lot of things have came up from his past where it's like, okay. And I think 2016 really showed people that a lot of people are just fed up with your lifelong politicians. And Joe Biden's been a politician for over 50 years. That's all he knows. Just like Bernie Sanders. The only thing he's literally done all of his life has been in politics. He doesn't know the struggles of an actual working class man. Or woman, excuse me. I'm not trying to be exclusive or whatever. But, yeah. Working class men and women, they don't want to hear that crap. They don't want to hear your standard politician, phrases. No. That's why a lot of people voted for Trump. Even people that didn't particularly like Trump for who he is, his character and all that, they still voted for him because they wanted to see if he could actually change the way the typical politicians do things. And guess what? He shook it up amazingly. He's done a fantastic job. A lot of people on the left, all they do is use feelings to describe him. They don't use, it's just not accurate. what he's done for the country has actually been fairly dang amazing. I didn't expect it, and I've said that numerous times. I've never expected that Trump would be as good for the country as he's been. And if the mainstream media and all that would just stop constantly bashing him, things would be a lot better. That's what causes the most divide and everything right now, is just the mainstream media constantly just not being able to get the name Trump out of their mouths. Even when it's a non-issue, even when it's something like piddly. I'm sure he could walk off Air Force One and drop something, and the mainstream media would go insane about. They would come up with some theory of what he was doing, like there was a mixed message or something. You know how it goes. But yeah, for the most part, I'm gonna have to say I agree with Bernie Sanders. He was correct that that's how the DNC works. They know who they want, and it doesn't matter what the people, what the people that support the Democratic Party, it doesn't matter what they want. It's what the main people in the Democratic National Committee and all that want. That's how it works. That's how it works on the Democratic side. Republicans showed in 2016, you don't have to be the most liked or well-received candidate. But if people are getting behind you, the rest of the Republicans will start to support you slowly. And I'm sure now a lot more Republicans do support the president. There is this thing called the Trump bump. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, but when Trump endorses someone, they usually get propped up pretty hard. People start paying attention to them and liking them. But yeah, I would love to hear any of y'all's comments, as usual. I try to get back to everybody I possibly can. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the flip side.